Si je sais, j'habite au Canada. Hai, Tosh, 어르신 보여서 요셉 원래는 servo. Assim, si je sais, j'habite au Canada.
So there's a bit of irony that's going to happen right now as I'm doing this because I'm actually at work and but I'm not going to rush it to the point where it's nothing is necessarily miscommunicated. One of the things I kind of feel that's very important now, and not as an imposition at all, it's just my concern personally, like not even concern, it's just I feel that because of the way the education system has been for the longest time. There's a song that comes up with that. Oh, for the longest time. Anyways, um, is the whole like when I was teaching class today, just like literally like about 5 minutes ago, they didn't understand what I was saying, and even if I slowed down, they weren't understanding it. It's not because of they don't understand me. It's because of how they're trying to define every single word I'm saying, or they're trying to visualize it in their head. What do they really? We confuse the word mean versus the definition of a word. Meaning is has nothing to do with it's very little to do with meaning itself. Like we say that all the time. What does that mean? Or what is the meaning of that? There's many meanings in English. Like there's many uses of it, right? But this is what happens. Like we come across a lot of miscommunication, and not because we're just different people. That's one thing, but it's also the in terms of the overall structure of how languages are because of the way they are, how they evolve. Right? It's because of culture, but beyond culture, there's behavior, and behind that, below that, or behind all that, its root is in intention. Right? Especially for people who are used to not honing in their intuition, communication becomes this thing where they have to guess every single thing and they have to try to get things correct. They have to do this and they have to do this. So there's nothing wrong, like I said, with grammar. Grammar can be fun, but the point of communication is to exactly that to communicate, to connect, communicate with, communicate, right? So because of the 3D level we're in, I think there's a huge disparity. Disparity, is that even the right word? See, right there, right? So, not a, see, that's an example of like even for me, sometimes not knowing what to use. But we shouldn't just jump the gun and say, "Well, let's just be telepathic." That's denying the existence of where we're at right now. We need to build a new, different way of doing things. It's not even new. We need to go, one, yes, go back to natural, but really what goes with what is natural within, right? So this is beyond my so-called being negative or wanting to change the world or wanting to impose anything. Because in my experience, it feels like the push for this whole systemized ideal of like, let's just do the grammar thing because it makes money. Let's just do the grammar thing because it makes money. Let's just do the grammar structure, learning, all that stuff. Again, it's not about that. I mean, grammar, when you're studying grammar, studying it for the sake of the languages, the content itself. But language is a living energy. So is culture. So when we go into something like this, when we go into the idea of this concept of language learning, one, we have this perception that, oh, it's like a tool on its own. It's like a something that's like, we have to have a class on that. Again, it's put in a box, but it's actually all connected to everything else. How many times do we come across miscommunication? How many times do we come across like being misunderstood? A lot of it still is tied to lack of communication, and that in turn is through the language itself. when native speakers react to like other people saying, what? There's an internal reaction to it. And why is there internal reaction to it? We can justify it. It's like, oh, because they're resisting it. They're not being accepting of foreigners. They're being racist. They're not, that's a possibility. But there's also a possibility that with the system that we've all been going through, or most of us have been going through, where we just where we say we don't know how to use a word, we don't know when to use it, and then there's insecurities. They're like, oh, I can't speak this language. Right away, we go into the whole concept of I need to speak it. We didn't do that with our mother tongue. Why do we do it with other languages? Because it's foreign, because it's not ours. It's all separation. It's more separation after separation. The boxing in of things. And I feel like this is a huge thing that will eventually change. But I think we need to bring our awareness to not just this whole thing. It's not about changing the system. It's about being really like kind of like, what am I? How am I making communication as a part of this intricate, huge network of everything that we have as being human? How is communication just an aspect of it? Part of that. I think we take it for granted. So, right? Even just the words we say sometimes, that's connected to that, like how we say it instead of being reactive, right? So I'm still learning it myself. I don't know. Like I sometimes I do pause because I'm trying to one, I don't know the words, or two, or two, it's being aware of how I say it, using the right words so that it's uplifting and brings us to connection with each other, but also as a whole, the entire universe, rather than the whole separation thing. Ego is not a bad thing. It's not about that. Right? So it's that time where we don't no longer need to push things. It's a time for when we say the time for change. Everybody says that, but it is right. Pushing for things, pushing so that it's like, oh yeah, like even this job that I have, it's like, why am I doing it? It's for money. So it's all about choices, and um, it sounds hypocritical of me. I know, um, but when we make choices, there's no right or wrong choice. It's just being aware of it. Kind of like there is this sort of like push inside me where it's just like, oh, it needs to change. But I'm I'm doing what I can because people sometimes eventually ask me, so how do I get fluent? Then that's when I come in. I say, well, it depends. At work, I don't mention the whole like acquisition thing because to be honest, I want to keep this job for now, right? Um, because there are certain benefits to it. Like I said in a previous video, uh, it's there's a greater purpose behind all this stuff. Now, yeah, I don't know. I don't know when it's going to change. There is a chart that I'm going to read eventually. I actually prepared it, kind of prepared for it. Um, when Uranus will be entering Gemini, but that's for another time. For those people who like astrology, that's what it's going to be about. But anyways, thought I'd just kind of also say my 2 cents about it, 5 cents about it. I don't know, whatever. But the point is not about the wording. You see, that wasn't my really about the wording I was concerned about. I'm more talking about that whole thing, comprehension, communication. It's a flow, right? It's not the sound we make. It's not the order we put them in. It's not the structure we go by. It's communication. It's connecting. But again, we can't just jump into telepathy expecting, oh, I'm not going to need languages anymore. I'm just going to be telepathic, or the opposite. Complete like segregation, complete like what? Right? So it's not healthy. It's not whole. It's not integrating. the wholeness of what is of consciousness, the universe. But yeah, I have to admit that it's still concerning. So it kind of feels a little heavy right now. Not that heavy, because I'm kind of like I'm just seeing where it is. Um, I can't change the world. I can't change it in that way. At least I can make the little changes that I can. But that will eventually lead to all that changes. And I think when we all pull our what's that word? What's that saying we have? We pull our all resources in. See, okay, so I know whatever it is, right? So the point is, it's about communication. If you can intuit exactly what I'm trying to say, great. If you can't, write down in the comments below what you think, what I mean. Uh, I don't know. I'll respond if I can. If I don't, I don't. Um, but thank you for watching. Um, that's it.